Oh,
Hello. Welcome to Donna and Cheryl TV, live with you on Tuesday lunchtime, keeping it real and sharing with you life lessons, life strategies, and different, better ways to live your life using your mind. Welcome.
yes. And this week we're focusing on your identity. So we're talking about different ways that you can start to connect and find, if you've lost her or him, the real you. So we talked yesterday around, what did we talk about yesterday? I can't remember.
It's identity the week this week, isn't it?
Yes,
So
it's identity. Masks. I was trying to think what we were talking about yesterday. We were talking about masks yesterday. And today we're going to be focusing on your intuition. So we touched on this slightly yesterday, but we're going to talk more about this today, about focusing in on that inner GPS, as we call it, the intuition, the inner sense, just that knowing, your gut feeling, your niggle, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing.
Your gut, Cheryl always says.
Happening around your tummy area, your sacral, as it's called in the spiritual world.
We got to learn something every day, peeps. So what about you guys? Tell me, do you have a strong gut instinct? Do you listen to it a lot? Do you rely on it to make your decisions? How do you use yours? So Cheryl and I are quite gut-led, aren't we? And I think this is what made, I know for me, being in corporate, I think this made me a bit of a nightmare as a leader for some of, say, for example, if you're the finance director and you're asking me to back a decision up based on lots of numbers, like I'm one of those people, I look at all the numbers and if it doesn't feel right, it's not what I will do based on the numbers or not. And I know, Cheryl, I clashed quite a few times with people on that because what you get labeled as a little bit as you're emotional. Do you know what I mean? Rather than you know what you're doing and you're just basing it on an intuition, on something that you can't see. I think sometimes I was branded as a little bit emotional.
Yeah. And this isn't just in work life as well. Like I've got an example around a couple of years ago when I was being told by doctors and experts that I should have a major operation because of some health problems I was having. And I was being judged by it. Like my friends were saying, you know, just what's wrong with you type thing, go ahead and do it. My family was saying like, well, just go ahead and do it. And so-and-so's had this operation and it worked for them. And then I went to say a private doctor who then were like, you know, well, this is the only option. But something was just in myself. I just knew that wasn't the right path for me. It might have worked for other people. I just knew that wasn't for me. I didn't know what the path was at that point. I just knew that the option they were offering us wasn't right for me. So I chose to tune in and listen to my gut and then found a naturopathic healer. And I've been on a 2-year journey with the healer. And not only have I solved my medical issues, I've really completely changed my whole lifestyle in terms of my health. So it didn't just solve the immediate issue where the people were saying, you know, the doctors were saying, go and have an operation. It actually helped to like change my whole lifestyle, basically. Yeah. But I didn't know the how. I didn't know what the answer was. I just knew the answer that they were offering wasn't the one that was right for me.
But I think that's sometimes when you're challenged on it, isn't it? So say, for example, in your case, when you were saying, well, I don't want to have the operation, people who care for you, like me being one of them at the time, but like, well, what are the other options? And when the answer is, I don't know, because we like to work with the definites, don't we? I don't know. Yeah. People that love you will often go, well, they're offering this and this seems like the right thing because you're in your logic brain, aren't you? Yeah. I think especially when you're worried about someone or you know someone's health isn't good, you're like, well, it's like if somebody, like when I think of times when I've left well-paid jobs, like when we set up the business, there's lots of times when we followed our gut and the people that are around us that loved us have gone, well, are you sure? That seems insane. That seems a bit balmy. Well, what are you going to do? And I think people think we're being a bit flaky sometimes when we haven't got all the answers.
Yeah.
And that's not the intention, but that can be how you
are invited to feel when you are following this intuition. Like I said, I know in corporate lots of times I would be seeing all these numbers thinking, no, I know the numbers are telling me to do that, but actually my gut instinct is telling me that that's not the right thing to do, the thing over here. And that can be very hard to quantify. It can be hard to qualify. A little bit like if you meet a person that you don't vibe with, sometimes, you know, if you're interviewing someone, you're trying to imagine how they fit in your team and they're answering the right questions, but maybe it's just your instinct is a little bit like, oh, I can't see how this is going to fit. And it can be challenging because sometimes you have to quantify it. You know, you can't just say, I don't like it. You've got to try and work it through.
Absolutely. Because people like to work with facts and figures and evidence. So
it's safe, isn't it?
And the other thing was that always sticks out in my mind was with you when you were going on your journey to become a parent. Like a lot of the experts and doctors were telling you it was never going to, well, it was impossible. Told you it was impossible.
They said they said it's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely. You know, and when they've been in there and done their tricks and lotions and potions, and we tried IVF and everything, you know, and it didn't work for us. But there was that knowing, and that's the only way I can describe it. It's probably the strongest knowing that I've ever had in my life that I was going to be a parent. And I said so many times, so many people, I don't know how, I can't articulate how it's going to happen, but I know I'm going to be a parent. And for me, that meant whether it was adoption, whatever, I didn't necessarily mean that I knew I was going to give birth, but I knew I was going to be a parent. The how almost didn't matter. And I think sometimes, Cheryl, that's where we get a bit unstuck because we obsess about the how, which effectively is kind of focusing on the problem from where I come from. When you're really thinking about, well, how is it going to happen? You're giving attention to the fact that it's not happening and you're trying to solutionize it all yourself. Whereas when you just focus on the end game, I think it can free you up a little bit just to see what happens.
Absolutely. And Wendy was just saying before, Thomas, around naturopathy is brilliant. Clever professionals in cahoots with Mother Nature always wins. And
I love that.
That's the way you work as well, Wendy. And then for Thomas, always knew within the first few minutes interviewing someone if I liked them or not. Went against my instinct once and hired someone that your peers wanted and was proved right they were a nightmare and eventually left. Because there's just something. And this is about sensing and picking up on the invisible. We can't see it, can we? It comes back to like the logic, the facts and the figures. You just have a sense of energy. We're all just balls of energy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Just because we can't see something doesn't mean it's not, see, hear or feel it. It doesn't mean it's not there.
You've got all these other senses giving you information. Like, you know, Cheryl, I feel really passionately as well around how we help our children with this. So, for example, children can be around people that they don't like, you know, and you have the family saying, oh, give them a kiss, say hello, give them a cuddle. And the child is quite reluctant to do that. And is because you're in your parent, I'm embarrassed, I want my child to behave. You're like, oh, no, come on. Like if the kid doesn't want to be around that person, allow the child to use their instincts, because actually we know how that pans out later in life when we're telling children to ignore their instincts and just be polite to adults. Doesn't work out great. Yeah. So I think from quite early doors, we don't really teach and help our kids to rely on that intuition, to trust it and to act upon it. I think we're encouraged through the school system to look at facts and figures and things, aren't we? Rather than just, you know, what seems like the right thing to you. Like, Caleb's always coming up with answers for stuff, and I'll check out with him where he's got it from, just because I'm interested. But actually, if it's just like, it just felt like the right thing, sometimes I'm like, okay then.
Absolutely. Exactly. And it's picking up on, they're sensing something, aren't they? And they're picking up on something. And I think like what I learned with, you know, we have experts around us for a reason, but my journey with my health, I went and saw the experts. I saw consultants. I paid to see private, but I know myself more than anyone knows me.
Absolutely.
So even though sometimes in certain situations you may have an expert or, you know, in a certain subject is telling you something, if you're then still got this sense within you that that isn't the right information or thing or whatever it is you want to do in your life, then trusting that you know yourself better than anyone else knows you because you're with yourself 24/7. It's just having that trust, isn't it? The trust in yourself that you know yourself better than anyone.
Yeah, I think that's really important though, because like how can anyone, they can look at all the charts and all the stats and all the rest of it, can't they? But you know your body, and you have to be your own biggest advocate for that body.
Yeah.
Nobody else is ever going to know it. So instinctively, what's that telling you? What's your intuition telling you? And I'd love to know from anyone watching right now, have you ever had a really strong instinct and listened to it and then it hasn't panned out for you? Like, is that, because there's two sides to the argument. Has it ever not worked out for you when you followed your gut instinct? I'd love to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, because then we get burned, don't we? If we have followed our gut instinct and we thought it was the right way, and then it turns out that it doesn't work, then maybe we don't trust. It comes to the trust thing of trusting that you know deep down. Sometimes we have other stuff covering it, but deep down you know what's best for you.
Absolutely.
And I think the other thing, particularly in your case, is particularly with the journey with Caleb, is around just surrendering yourself and accepting that you might not know what the how is. That's okay. You have to accept that none of us know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. Like in life, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. None of us do, unless you're a telepathic mind reader and you have a crystal ball. So even if you think you've got the how and exactly every step mapped out, that probably isn't going to happen anyway. So it's just accepting that you don't have to know the how. The how will appear. The journey, the path, whatever it is you're going to go on, will appear in front of you, won't it?
Absolutely. It's so true. And I think as a recovering control freak, knowing the how was what I did. Like I was the fixer of the family, as you know. If there was a problem, call me, I'll work it out. And so for me, it wasn't an easy thing to just say, oh, I just know, like I just trust, I just believe it's going to happen. And yet in my life, when I look at some of the quantum leaps, like getting my first house and having Caleb, when I've just trusted, when I've just handed it over and said, I'm not even going to try and make this happen. I would just love it to happen. And something in me knows that this is the right thing for me. And just hand it over and just allow the universe, the powers that be, to do their thing and just go with the flow. Because sometimes you've got a plan, you think you're in control of it. It is all an illusion, because we know that plan can blow up any second. And we are back to feeling like, we have to then control twice as hard to make something else happen. And actually, when you just relax with it and go with the flow, because what will be, my nan used to say this all the time, and I never really understood it till I was in my 40s, late 30s, like what will be, will be.
Yeah.
Regardless of how hard you're trying to make it, what will be, will be.
Sheds a whole different light on it, doesn't it? Yeah. So Thomas, thank you.
Yeah, my only letdown ever really for my gut instinct was with my marriage. I felt like it would be forever at the time. And do you know what? Like, I don't know if this helps, but I remember listening to Marianne Williamson talking in a lecture once. It was quite early on in her career. I think she was in New York. And she says, like, who says that when a marriage or a relationship ends, that it was a failure? Like, we do that. We say it was a failure. But actually, if you think about all the good stuff that you take from that and all the joy, it's so sad that we then deem it a failure, because in the end, we're not together. Like, you're connected to that person for the rest of your life. And I don't mean about through having kids or anything, but just like at a spiritual level, you've shared an experience and you'll always have that. And I think our society looks at it like a failure when it ends, and we feel like failures. I felt like a failure when mine ended. But actually, when I look at it, some of the greatest lessons in my life actually came from that experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Definitely.
I think, again, there's just something around, yes, your instinct might have been, and obviously Chum's using that as an example, like a marriage or a job or whatever, but that was the right thing for us at that time for sometimes a long period of time. It just doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right thing forever. It means something else, something greater, something that's going to add to this experience even more for you. And then it's about leaning into the faith that that's going to present itself, but it won't present itself while we're in resistance that it didn't pan out the way that we wanted it to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thomas is just saying, didn't feel like
Yeah.
can't help feel disappointed and sad. But like you
Sad,
said, just
yeah.
get the lessons, experience happy times, they can't be taken away. Absolutely.
100%. And it's natural to go through those emotions. I'd be worried if anybody didn't. Like
Yeah.
we're mourning something, like something's gone from our life that we weren't expecting it to pan out that way. So it's totally okay to go through those feelings and process them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's sometimes where we go wrong. We ping pong into another relationship, or we leave a job, we're made redundant, we feel burned, and we ping pong, and we don't really heal from the
Yeah.
experience. So
Yeah.
the healing is really important, and then handing it over and say, okay, let's see what is supposed to
Absolutely.
happen next. What's my next chapter? Somebody turn the page.
And I think the other thing for me that I've learned as well, and I talked about this a bit yesterday, is around when you're in, like we were in corporate, and you just go, give, get everything done. It's think, logic. You're in your masculine energy. It's more challenging to tune into your inner GPS, to your intuition, because you're not in the right energy. So everybody has a balance of feminine and masculine energy. So we were talking about this yesterday, like having some time on your own just to tune in, to allow, because the guidance, the inner GPS, the creativity, like you have to stop to hear it, because it's there all the time, but you have to create space and time to tune into it. But when you just boom, go, you probably got all these intuitions and gut screaming out of you, telling you, giving you signs, and you just literally are like completely ignore them because you're too busy in that energy. So creating the space, the time, just to be, we said this yesterday, just to be, to allow, is when you can really start to tune in. If you're watching this and you feel like you don't do it, you have to create the space and time to just sit and be with yourself.
100%. And that can be quite scary. We talked about it yesterday, but that energy, that being, because everybody, men, women, plants, all have a masculine and feminine, like yin and yang. That's your balance. One will help neutralize the other. So if you're spending too much time in one, obviously then you are deactivating almost and disempowering the other. So just allowing that time, letting it come through, seeing what comes up. I think like when I think about the times when I was most burnt out, Cheryl, in corporate or in anything, even when we started this business, when you're spending time in that getting shit done energy, it is exhausting.
Yeah.
And we all go into it from time to time. But that's when you feel very lonely. Like I can feel quite victim, like, why is there only me doing this? And I don't feel supported and all that stuff, because you're literally cutting off all of the other help that's available to you, that's around you, because you're just in that energy of like, I always think of us heads down for the first 6 months at the kitchen table in our business, which is our 2-year birthday this week, guys.
Yes.
Thursday. So I hope you tune in on Thursday and celebrate with us. But that's really when it kicked in, wasn't it? Just spending that, well, like ducks went with their tails up just.
Yeah.
And then actually when we've said this so many times, when we step away from the table and we go for a walk, the ideas that'll come to us, the inspiration, it's just like so different, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's definitely the environment that you put yourself in makes such a difference. So yes, happy second birthday. Yes. So we'll be having a socially distanced, i.e. working, sitting in our own houses, birthday party.
Yes.
So join us for that.
Yeah.
We probably won't be drinking at 12:30 on the Thursday afternoon, but you know, we could pretend.
No, but I think we're going to do drinks at some point, aren't we? So watch this space. But you know, to hear about anything that we're doing or is coming up, you can always sign up to the Lowdown. So if we're not already signed up, or if you want your friends to sign up, thank you, Thomas. We're going to drop the link for the Lowdown in here, which is our weekly love letter to you. But we also share with you lots of other stuff coming up. Yeah. And this week it's a corker, because we have got our first ever online coaching program, which we are launching for our second birthday. We're so excited. Cheryl and I want to do this since day dot, but these things take time. Yes. So we would love, make sure that you keep tuned in, and we'll be telling you about that as the week goes on. It's so exciting.
Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and hopefully we'll see you here tomorrow, 12:30. Keeping it real.
Have a fab day, guys.
Bye.